Kidding? Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get there.
Ooh, I love this song. I'm hung up in a grave situation.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello and welcome to episode 218 of the Rotten Reviews podcast. Thank you everyone for showing up to another new episode this week. If you're a new listener, thank you for stopping by for this episode. Not sure why this movie is the movie that made you find this podcast, but I appreciate it nonetheless. That's not me giving any shade or saying I don't like the movie by any means. You'll know my review on the movie later. That's, of course, assuming that you actually stay for the whole episode. Hopefully you will. Hopefully you won't just click play and then ditch out on it. But if you do, I understand. I'll just have to, curse you later. It's no big deal, though. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. But before we do get into this episode, I want to just say I haven't watched this movie before. This is a first time watch, and I'm glad that I'm using the podcast to watch movies I've never even seen before, because it's growing my watch experience, my library in my brain. I don't know what the technical term I'm looking for here. I guess I just really enjoy being a movie connoisseur. I like watching movies I've never seen before, and that I don't actually hear people talking about ever, because I've never heard anyone talk about this movie ever before. But before we do get into the movie at hand, a little bit too much, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping at this moment.
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
Could you come back in an hour?
Housekeeping, you want towel?
More towels. Need sleepy.
Housekeeping, you want mint for pillow?
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
If you guys can, check out all my social media links down below at Typenstein. You can find us on X, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. YouTube being the big thing that we're on. Also, we're doing live streams on Twitch. But we also do live streams on YouTube. We also have the weekly game video that drops every single Wednesday. We have various short videos that drop every single week over there as well. And there's just a ton of extra content for you guys to watch. And once we have 1,000 subs on YouTube, I'm actually going to be giving away some free artwork, so definitely go sub over to the YouTube channel. I appreciate it. If you do, turn on the bell notifications. That way you get notified when we go live. If you want, subscribe to the Twitch channel. I've been switching it up, going live, a couple days on Twitch, a couple days on YouTube. At some point in time, we'll probably, set it up so we can co-stream on both platforms at the same time. But at this point in time, it's not that far ahead. But yeah, let's get back to the movie at hand. Today we're watching a movie called Hellhole from 1985. Horror action movie for an hour and 30 minutes runtime. It's got a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 2.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Initial release date was March 1985. Doesn't give an exact day, but it was in March. The description, as read on IMDb, a young woman becomes an insomniac after an attack by a hired killer. She's admitted to a mental asylum run by a ruthless doctor who experiments on her patients with a lethal drug, and her attacker just got employed there. Even though we never, now that I've watched the movie, we don't ever see him, get hired for the job. He just kind of shows up at the mental asylum. He's like, yeah, I work here now. This movie features 2 directors. The first one being Pierre de Moreau, of course, best known for doing this movie, Hellhole, from 1985. He was also the director for 1982 Savannah Smiles. He was also the director for 1981's Christmas Mountain, which I don't know either one of those movies at all. Never heard of them. I mean, on IMDb, they have decent scores. At least the one's got 7.1, the other one's got 6.4. So they're not horrible movies by any means, by the sounds of it. I mean, that's if you're into following IMDb scores and caring anything about them, of course. The next director for this one is Tom DeSimone. I probably butchered that last name because I'm really good at that. But he's best known for being the director for 1979's The Idol, as well as director for 1985's Bicoastal. He's also the director for a movie from 1986 called Reformed Schoolgirls. As well, he was the director for 1988's Angel 3, The Final Chapter, which I don't think has anything to do with Buffy. I think it's a totally different movie altogether. Something else that we actually have to mention, he was the director for 4 episodes from 1988 to 1989 of Freddy's Nightmares. He was also the director for 9 episodes from 1991 to 1992 of Superforce, and he did 3 episodes from 1992 to 1993 of Swamp Thing. I love Swamp Thing. This movie also has 3 writers attached to it as well. The first one we're going to talk about is Aaron Butler. Finally, a name I can say and not butcher. He was the photographer for 1981's Graduation Day. He was the writer for 26 episodes from 1985 to 1986 of Expedition Danger, which I've never heard of before, but I might have to look that up. As well, he was the writer for 1983's Chained Heat, and they haven't done anything else ever since then, so that's all I have to say about him. Next person on the writing list is Lance Dickinson, who did 1 episode, apparently, of Star Trek The Next Generation in 1988, where he was a writer. He was the writer for 1990's Hollywood Heartbreak, as well as the location management for 1987's Winners Take All. Looks like a BMX movie, motocross movie. Actually, I don't know why I said BMX. I meant motocross. My bad. The final writer that we're going to discuss on this movie is Mark Evan Swartz, and he was the writer for 1994's Stranglehold. He was the writer for 1998's Wanted, as well as the writer for 1995's Terminal Voyage. And of course, what we like to do each episode is we'd like to take a couple of the cast members and discuss them a little bit. The 2 cast members we're going to talk about today is Susan and Silk. Silk is being the hired killer guy. Silk is played by Ray Sharkey, who passed away in 1993 apparently. He was also Vincent Vicari in 1980's The Idolmaker. He was in 10 episodes from 1987 to 1989 of a TV show called Wise Guy, which I think I've heard of it, or maybe I've heard of a movie adaptation of it. I'm not 100% sure. But he was also in a movie in 1978 called Dog Soldier. He's got a bunch of other credits as well, but nothing that really catches my attention. I mean, the last one that catches my attention plays Vinnie Fountain in 1993's Cop and a Half with Burt Reynolds, I believe, in it. I haven't seen that one in a while. Probably do that one for the podcast as well soon, because I love Burt Reynolds. The other person we're going to talk on the list is Susan, who's played by Judy Landers. Of course, she's the main person for this movie. Plays Mrs. Xenobobia in 1989's Dr. Alien. I haven't heard of that one ever at all, but that one's being added to my list. She's in 2 episodes from 1982 to 1985 Knight Rider. She's in 1986 Stewardess School, playing Sugar Dubois, as well as she's in a movie that I'm going to have to revisit because I don't know who this character is, but she plays Noreen in 1986 Armed and Dangerous. Is that John Candy's wife or girlfriend in that movie? I can't remember. Armed and Dangerous, that's John Candy and Eugene Levy, if I remember correctly on that one. Now that we got that all done and out of the way, the tagline for this movie is captives stripped naked and forced to submit to the ultimate experiment, which pretty much just a bunch of girls getting on with themselves in a mental hospital when they're not really that crazy. Also, according to IMDb, it says the release date was actually April 26, 1985. I believe on the other post it said March. I'm not sure which one's right. We'll go with IMDb, I guess. Apparently it was all filmed in Los Angeles County, somewhere around there. Doesn't say exactly where, but somewhere in there. I'm not sure if you guys want to know more filming facts or not, so I might throw them in here every now and then, But who knows? We'll wait and see. But anyways, if you guys are a new listener, what I like to do on the podcast is talk about the podcast from start to finish and hit all the points in between that catch my interest. And so yeah, that means you're gonna be spoiled. But it's a movie from 1985, so if you get spoiled or upset that I'm talking about a movie from 1985, I feel like that's your fault though, because you've had plenty of time to watch this movie, and it's free on YouTube. I mean, I probably shouldn't say that, but it's free on YouTube, so if you want to go watch it on YouTube, go ahead. But we're going to be talking about this movie now, so just, want to give you a heads up, a little bit of a warning, just so you guys know what you're getting into. So hopefully, either I will make you really want to see this movie, or you'll just be like, you know what, I'm good listening to it. I don't need to actually take my time and watch it. And I mean, if you really want to watch it, you're pretty much just going to see a lot of boobs. I'm just going to be honest with you guys now. There's a lot of boobs in this. A lot of boobs. So with that being said, sit back, relax, get some snacks, get some treats, some Doritos, some nachos, I don't know, a Coney dog, whatever it might be. Or, if you're at work, hopefully this helps you get through the day and helps you have a better day at work. And if you're in the car, make sure to keep your eyes on the road, okay? We don't need any accidents while listening to the podcast. I don't want any bad luck on my side at all for you doing something stupid. So with that being said, we're going to get started on the movie right now.
Presents Saturday Night at the Movies, the television series which each week brings you the finest in recent motion pictures. Tonight,
your worst nightmare is a fantasy come true for the doctors of Hellhole.
No, please, Doctor.
Oh, you don't want to mess with them.
Hellhole?
Yes. And once they take you to Hellhole, you don't never come back.
What's Hellhole?
Susan, it's very important that you don't ever mention that again.
Well, what is it, damn it?
We put you here, and we'll keep you here until you die.
Double the pleasure, double the fun. The mud bath with two brothers is better than one.
Captives, stripped naked.
What about her?
I have special plans for this one.
Forced to submit to the ultimate experiment.
But if we keep it under control, maybe we won't have any more failures.
Hellhole. When you're taken here, everything is taken from you. Body
Oh, goody.
and mind. Be glad you're only watching it and not living it. Hellhole. Pray they don't succeed. Hellhole.
Our movie's starting out. It's nighttime. We hear the crickets chirping in the background. We see a picture of a house or image of a house with some shutters on, and it's setting up the spooky atmosphere for the movie. We can hear like someone walking around. We can hear the footsteps a little bit, and then we hear like a weird I don't know if it's a frog or what it was, but we hear a weird sound at some point in time. And then we just see someone walking down this alleyway, and it looks like it's a gated area into like a sewer system of some sort. And then we just see the two blonde ladies in the kitchen just working away at something. So it's a mom and daughter, and they're talking about the papers that they hid away from Dr. Monroe. Or Monroe. I'm not sure if he is the doctor or not, but his name's Monroe. And for whatever reason, the mom's worrying about stuff. And the daughter's like, don't worry about it, Mom. Everything's going to be okay. Even though I didn't know. They almost look like they're the same age, to be honest with you. But then we cut back outside, and we see this guy who's all dressed in black. He's got like a spiky armband on. He's got black gloves on. He's slowly sneaking into what looks to be the backyard of their home. We got the mom who's getting ready to take some sip of some wine, probably. And this guy in the backyard is stepping on some tree branches and snapping them. She just looks around and be like, huh, what was that? I heard that. Where was that? Then the burglar takes out his pocket knife and is able to pop open either a sliding door or a window. It's a window because at this point in time we see him actually like climbing up into the window. At first it looked like a sliding door, but when he's outside, the shots are very dark, a lot of black, heavy shadows. And then we see this random burglar guy, and he's like, hey, how are you? She's like, who are you? He's like, you know this paper you got? Dr. Monroe doesn't want to spend the next 10 years in jail, so how about you hand those papers over to me, sweet thing? And the whole time, the daughter's in the shower. The whole time. As this guy is trying to push the mom's head into her spaghetti sauce. And of course, the daughter's out of the shower, but she's got some music playing. She's got the towel around her head and around her waist. And, yeah, we see downstairs the mom's just fighting this guy as he's tossing her around the kitchen the whole time. And then he pushes her down, and she falls backwards over the couch and almost smashes into the table. And then she's trying to escape the front door, or a doorway of some sort, but the door is locked and she doesn't know how to unlock it, apparently. Then we see now the daughter's dressed, and her name is Susan, because the mom's yelling for Susan, but she's using a blow dryer to dry her hair. And then she turns the blow dryer off. She's like, could have swore I heard my mom yelling for me, but I guess it's nothing, no big deal. Then we cut back to the guy who's now strangling the mom on the floor with his scarf. The whole time he's strangling her out, he's singing London Bridge is Falling Down. And then Susan comes downstairs. She's like, hey, Mom, is dinner ready? I see you're getting choked out from behind. And then she gets down to the bottom stairs. She's like, oh, my God, Mommy, what happened? And the guy just looks at her and be like, hey, how's it going? Susan just runs out the front door and starts booking it down the street. And we see a guy sitting outside in the car, which I'm assuming is Dr. Monroe, because then he's like, stupid idiot. And he heads towards the house where the killer is still inside the house. And then we just see Susan running forever. Susan runs up into this housing area that all these undeveloped houses are still in the production of being built. And at one point in time, we then look down outside because she ran up like a hill to get to the spot. We then see the killer, the strangler, slowly starting to come after me like, oh yeah, she probably went up here. Susan's slowly making her way through this house, trying to find a good spot to hide. Then of course the strangler just comes out of nowhere, just lighting a smoke, being like, hey, good to see you again. Susan, trying to avoid the guy, keeps walking backwards, and to the point where she reaches the edge of the house and literally falls out of the wall, because there's no actual wall there, it's just the framing work, and falls down onto another pile of wood down below. And the killer's just looking down and being like, oh, what a waste of space. Then the music starts to pick up, and then the intro credits start to roll, and then we see Hellhole come up on the screen, and it looks like it's in front of like this broken window, because it looks like there's shards of broken glass. And then the music starts getting more and more intense as we see like jail cells and other various rooms from what looks to be a hospital. And then we see a random blonde lady just swimming in the pool, had a little tiny bikini on, and we see two guys getting pissed off at the strangler guy. He's like, hey, I did my job, they're both dead. And then one guy's like, nah, she's in a county hospital. And that's when they're discussing everything, and apparently she has amnesia. So they're like, okay, you you fucked up a little bit, but we'll maybe be able to work around this with her having amnesia. And then he's like, hi, I got a plan, why don't we just go in the hospital and kill her? And then the strangler guy's trying to charge another $5,000 for the murder, and the one guy's like, I should start charging you $5,000 because of the murder. He's like, hey, buddy boy, you hired me to get a job done. And so what, the murder happened, I'm not a murderer, but I was a murderer for you, so my murder is kind of your murder. And of course he's talking to Monroe, Dr. Monroe. And then we cut to a mental hospital where we see a bunch of lovely looking ladies all in little hospital gowns, just kind of, doing their thing around the mental hospital, looking weird and crazy. And then we see Susan, who's just sitting there in a wheelchair, just staring off at this wall. And then one of the other patients just grabs Susan's wheelchair and starts pushing around, be like, hey, let go. And then one of the doctors stops the girl and she's like, hey, I'll take her from here, all right, let's calm down there, okay? Hey kiddo, I'm Ron Stevens, I'll be taking care of you, you'll be my patient from now on, okay? So then we see that Susan's talking to Dr. Fletcher, and Susan's like, I don't know why I'm here. She's like, well, your mother's supplier or supporter or whatever, boss sent you here, Mr. Monroe, because your mom's away on business and she can't take care of you at this point in time. And Susan's like, I'm not sick, I just can't remember stuff, that's all. Also, I don't want to be rude, because I don't have IMDb pulled up at the moment, but Fletcher looks like a man dressed as a woman. I could be wrong in that, and I hope I am, but it's a very manly looking female. Not that that's anything wrong, I'm just pointing it out, that's all. And Stevens comes in, and Fletcher's like, you know what, we're done with Susan for right now, that's all we want to do for today. And then Susan just gets up and walks away with Stevens. It's like, okay, she could have walked the whole time. But then we see Stevens pushing Susan again in the wheelchair, because apparently they don't think she's strong enough to be walking on her own, even though she was just walking on her own, and she only has amnesia. She's not paralyzed. And then a couple of the female patients start messing with Susan, and they start playing with her wheelchair, and then she gets up, and then they start pushing each other, and Susan's walking fine, and she's fighting back fine. So I'm not sure what the point of the wheelchair is, because it's not needed. And Stevens introduces Susan to a lady named Daisy. She's another patient there, and he's like, I know you're fine. I know you're just not being able to remember some things. You'll be able to get out of here soon. It's just, you need some time to heal. Unlike these other people, they're all stuck in their weird weird imaginations in their mind, and they're going to be here forever, but you're going to at least be able to get out. And then we see Stevens leaving. He then walks by another guy that looks like a gardener, or I'm not sure what he's supposed to be. But, of course, it's the Strangler who had just a different attire on at this point in time. And Susan looks at him and be like, kind of remember him. And out of nowhere, they're sitting outside in the garden area, and a bunch of the other females just start fighting, because apparently this seems to be a very common thing in this mental hospital, that the ladies just all start fighting with each other. And I don't know why. And so the security guards come to break up. There's like these two officers that come and take the one lady away. And Susan's like, Daisy, who are them? She's like, oh, you don't want to mess with them. They belong to death. And we just see this lady being dragged into another fenced off area, into another secluded building, where the officers are then pulling her into a room that's completely black, with just a little bit of blue light shining through, as this lady's trying to fight off, because she doesn't want to be in this building at all. And like the suspense music picks up, and we see the back of a doctor, and it turns around, and of course it's Dr. Fletcher. And that's at nighttime, and we see Susan sleeping in her bed, and then the Strangler guy comes in and starts like putting his hand over her mouth, smothering her a little bit. She wakes up panicking and be like, hey, you have what I want, and I need to know where it is. And he starts questioning her, but she doesn't say anything, because he's like, oh, you don't remember anything at all, do you? You're going to stay here for a long, long time if you don't tell me what I need. And then Stevens hears someone talking from the hallway, so then he comes in and rips the guy out of the room and starts pushing him up against the wall. And then the Strangler guy's like, hey, I was talking to her, what do you want? And the Strangler guy just starts walking down the hallway and leaving the hospital, and he's like, hey, Stevens, you just going to let random people walk through the mental hospital at random times of the night when everyone's supposed to be sleeping? Aren't you guys supposed to have security of some sort? And then Stevens goes to question Susan, and he's wondering what he was saying, like what the creep guy was saying. He's like, no, I don't know. I just woke up. He was there. He was questioning me and saying I was going to stay here forever, and that I had information that he needed, and I'm frustrated. I don't understand what's going on. You're the doctor. And then, Susan and Stevens have a little bonding moment, and Stevens like, I'm going to find out why you're here. And then Susan's just like, what's Hellhole? He's like, I can't really discuss that with you. It's for your safety and my safety that we don't discuss that or mention that to anyone, okay? Then we see the Strangler guy who's got this room set up, and it's kind of like a Hugh Hefner style room, and this lady comes knocking on the door. Her name's Vera, and apparently she's like a spy for him to try and infiltrate the hospital. And he's like, well, what do you know about Fletcher? She's like, he likes to play doctor. And the Strangler guy turns on a red light, literally rips off Vera's clothes because she's in like a hospital gown, and then he starts taking Polaroids for like the next 5 minutes, it feels like. Anyways, then the Strangler guy is like, hey, I need you to find everything out that you can about Stevens. And Vera's like, whoa, you're into guys? Like, no, I just need to know some information about him. Find out the information, please. Vera mentions, like, I can't sneak too much in case Fletcher finds out, because then she'll throw me in that little hellhole basement spot with all the other druggy rejects that she's messed around with. He's like, what kind of drugs are we talking about? She's like, she's got all kind of drugs there. Also, Vera, I didn't want to mention it, but she calls the Strangler guy Pretty Daddy, and I'm never going to refer to that ever again, other than this one point in time at doing it. So right now, I'm never going to say that ever again. And of course, with it being a time period movie, we have a lot of ladies in the shower, soaping it all up, and they're getting other ladies to help to soap it up too. I guess they're very comfortable. They don't seem like they're mental patients at all. They just seem like they're horny college students. That's really what they seem like. And of course, there has to be a half-naked women fighting scene in the locker rooms, because why not? Because Vera's trying to question their inmate about Stevens, and apparently the girl that she's filling up and questioning is this other girl's bitch, and she's not taking too kind to that. So then this wrestling style match breaks out in the locker room. Then we see, everyone's sitting down for lunch in the cafeteria area. And then the Strangler guy comes in with his glasses on, just, checking out the room. Which makes sense, of course, because he's one of Monroe's helpers. And it seems like Monroe has a big thing to do with this mental hospital. And then, of course, Stevens just starts walking up and walks into the guy and be like, hey, I remember you from last night. What are you doing in here? At least that's what I assume he would say if he actually said anything to the guy. Because the guy literally just lights a smoke in his face and he walks away like it's no big deal. Which then makes me wonder, like, does Stevens know that this guy's, like, an employee? Like, is this why he's not questioning him at all? He's just, like, an employee that doesn't deal with his style business? Or, like, his area of the hospital, I should say, maybe his patients? I don't know. Then one of the ladies is like, don't be eating the food. The devil poisoned all the food. And she just starts throwing everyone's food trays all over the place and, freaking out as everyone starts laughing at her. Be like, you're crazy. You're all crazy because you're in a mental hospital. And that lady's like walking across all the tables, stepping on all the food. Be like, God told me the food was poisoned by Satan. And then she literally just starts going on this rant and then just stop. Because then we see Fletcher and the evil doctors or the officers standing there. Be like, oh crap, I'm in trouble now. And of course, the two officers just pick up the lady and drag her away. And Susan's like, God, Jesus Christ. And Fletcher just looks down at her and be like, hey, you better keep your mouth shut. And then the music starts picking up. And then we see Stevens running outside in the garden area. He's running over to the Hellhole building. But instead of going for the door, he hops over the fence and breaks into a door that's like farther up on a fire exit area. Because I'm assuming he doesn't have key access to this. Only Fletcher and her two like officers have the access to it. But the whole time he's breaking in, the strangler guy is hiding behind a tree watching, be like, I wonder what he's doing. You see Stevens inside the office looking around, and of course he comes to this giant service elevator. Like, this thing is massive, and he's like, you know what, might as well take it to go find out where it leads me to, because why not? And down that basement area in this dark room, we see Fletcher and another doctor, and they're playing around with the serum. They're like, I think we might have the right serum to fix this lady's brain and make her think properly at one point in time, hopefully. I don't know, it'd be another test, and if it fails, it fails. But yeah, they're getting ready to test the lady that was doing the whole God, told me not to eat the food because devil poisoned it. And she's literally tied up to like a Frankenstein's monster style table. One doctor's like, if this works out, maybe we won't have any more failures if we can keep up with it. But we'll have to wait and see. And then Fletcher goes over to talk to the lady. He's like, what are you scared of? She's like, I'm scared of the devil and you, to be honest. And then of course the lady calls Fletcher herself the devil, and then Fletcher's like, alright, let me get the big giant needle out and I'm going to start injecting you in the side of the neck with it. As she's getting injected in the neck, we actually see Stevens watching from outside a doorway or some area, because we see him for a second looking in, and then after the needle's done being injected into the lady's neck, she starts like crying, but not actually crying. And then out of nowhere, she just starts screaming her face off. And Fletcher and the other doctor are watching on as this lady's screaming still. And she's shaking around as she's tied up to this table. And she just starts bashing her head off the back of the table. And they're both looking at each other being like, maybe it's not the right serum. And then out of nowhere, the lady's just like, no fear at all. There's no fear. But she looks around dazed and confused the whole goddamn time. And of course, the two doctors think they're actually doing something right for once. And then the girl starts convulsing again. And starts shaking and smashing her head off the table even more. And they're like, okay, yeah, it's not the right thing. And of course, Fletcher's asking for another needle to inject the girl with some more. He's like, you can't. If you inject her some more, you're going to kill her. And then Fletcher's like, get out of my lab. Just get out of here. I'm going to do it. I'm crazy. So the other doctor does leave because he doesn't want to be around for this at all. And of course, Fletcher injects her with some more serum. And of course, it doesn't work out well because she's dead. And then when the lady finally does drop her head down and she looks like she's dead, all we see is Fletcher just being like, shit, another one. God damn it. Of course, Stevens is still watching from this doorway shaft area that he's hiding in. It's like from the elevator, maybe still. It looks like a gated area. But anyways, and then for whatever reason, Fletcher starts making out with the dead body for some reason. I don't know why. We find out the other doctor that was with her was Dr. Miles, and they're arguing outside. And apparently Miles is like, you're just using these girls as test subjects for your weird sexual fantasies. And she's like, at least I'll have sex. Alright, I don't know what the weird tension is between you two, but alright. And then we see Stevens on the phone. He's like, I gotta talk fast. I've been to Hellhole. I've seen them kill a crazy lady, and the body's probably still down there. This is your time to move fast, alright? And I'm assuming this is like he's a secret agent to try and infiltrate this mental hospital to get, Fletcher arrested for impractical practice, I guess, maybe. So I've come find out that the strangler guy's name is apparently supposed to be Silk, because he's like Silk Smooth, because he's a slick guy. But he's sitting down to meet with one of the other guys. He's like, so I just found out that a lady in the hospital doesn't remember anything. She doesn't remember it at all. She's fine. Everything's fine. And then the guy in the car, he's like, I don't care what you do. Just get it done and do what you need to do, okay? He's like, hey, come on. You're wrecking my day off. Remember, I'm smooth. Smooth as silk. That's why they call me Silk. And then for no apparent reason, we just cut to two of the mental patients doing some drugs and getting it on together, and then the guards walk in and take both of them away. And then Chin, you would know why I would call this guy Chin, because the size of his fucking chin. He's like, that's just what I thought. You're stealing drugs again from the army. Second time you've done this. Take it to the hellhole now. And randomly we see one of the patients going door to door, banging on every door, waking everyone up, being like, it's party time. And Dr. Miles comes into the area. He's like, come on, guys. Everyone's got to go to bed. Relax. Got to go to bed. But then Susan walks out. She's like, I got to get out of here. And she just starts taking it down the hallway. Just booking it down the hallway. And then Miles is like, oh, crap. I got to go catch her before she gets away. Of course, Susan starts going down the hallway, going down a bunch of different staircases. And then she gets to like this basement-looking area, a tunnel system, where there's a guard asleep behind a locked gate. And she's just like, may I just go over there and grab his keys that are hanging off the gate, because why not? Because, of course, he keeps the one key inside the lock at all times, because that makes perfect sense. She makes it through that other hallway area and down to what I believe would be the elevator. So then she starts opening the elevator door. But then the chin guard comes through on the other side. So she's like, oh shit, I gotta go hide somewhere. So now we see Susan walking through this back room area. And now she looks like she's inside like the boiler room of this mental hospital. Because now she's all like sweaty and sparkly looking. Climbs down like a spiral staircase and she's looking down this hallway. And there's a bunch of steam all over the place. It's all lit up by red lights. It's like, oh, is Freddy Krueger gonna come out of this bitch now? She finds another random door and goes through this door and starts walking down another random hallway that has like jail cells all over the place. But instead of this being her red room and red hallway, this one's now a freaking blue hallway, because now everything is coated in a blue light. She makes it to the end of the hallway where there's like this locked gate. And she starts prying on the bars and she's making moaning sounds like she's getting it on with the fence, but nothing happens. So then she starts walking backwards, and then an inmate from inside one of the jail cells grabs her by the back of the throat, and then we see that all these cells down here in this basement area are all full of crazy people, and one crazy person actually breaks through a glass because apparently their room just had a glass door, and then Susan gets free and starts running away as this crazy person's now chasing after them. Susan makes it back upstairs where she was, where the chin officer was coming after her. She hides behind another ram doorway, and then the crazy person that was chasing after her then jumps on top of the chin officer like a leaping monkey and starts like, I don't know, scratching at his face maybe. I don't know, he's just trying to get it off from him, and he's not having any luck. Of course, the room that Susan's now hiding in, she looks around, we can see a bunch of bodies covered up on gurneys all over the place, and then she looks to her right, and then the crazy lady that was saying about the food and God told her is there beside her, dead of course, and Susan starts freaking out. Rightfully so, if you see a dead person right beside you. And then next thing you know, we see Susan waking up and she's chained down to a table, getting ready to get some tests done on her. But of course, it's not an actual doctor that's going to do some tests on her, because next thing you know, we see the table flipping up and she's standing up in the upward position, and it's now Slick. He's like, hey, sweetheart, you remember me? You remember your mother at all by chance? I do. And then, of course, he's asking about the papers. And, of course, Susan doesn't remember anything about the papers at all. And then Fletcher comes in with the chin officer, and she's like, hey, how the hell did you get in here? He's like, Doc, I used the window. And he's like, I always come through the window, don't you remember? And then the chin officer's like, hey, how about I break his neck? Because he's annoying as fuck. And then, of course, Slick and the doctor start talking a bit. And then Slick's like, hey, Doc, don't be playing games with me, okay? Because if you're gonna play games with me, your ass is gonna be in deep trouble. And she's like, my ass is always in trouble. I ain't worried about you, little boy. And the next thing you know, we see Stevens walk into what looks to be his office, and the security guards are coming to pretty much attack him. And Stevens is trying to fight them off. He's doing a good job for a couple seconds, and then he literally just gets thrown to the floor and gets decked a couple times. And then we see a group of people, well, three, this girl and two guys, and they're there to have a random inspection of the hospital, and Fletcher didn't know about because it was set up by Stevens, and it's actually the lady on the phone that Stevens was talking to, and he's like, so I want to go inspect that building over there, Dr. Fletcher, that's not part of this hospital, but still on the property, because I'm curious what goes on in that building over there, the Hellhole building. Let's go see that. I want to go see that building. So, of course, one of the guys that are with this lady to do the inspection is actually Dr. Monroe, because his name's on the hospital. Another guy is, I don't know who he is, but he's a big guy. He's like, I thought we were going to inspect the main hospital. She's like, no, we're going to do a full inspection, but I want to start with that building over there. And, of course, we see Stevens waking up in this room. And, of course, he goes to open the front door of the room. But, of course, the door is locked. So then he goes to the window. And, of course, the windows are locked as well. And then we cut back to the inspection happening in the Hellhole building. And the lady leading the inspection is like, what's that door go to? And Fletcher's like, oh, that's the boiler room. And it's like, okay, let's go down there. We're going to go inspect the boiler room too, because why not? Then we see Susan chained up on a stretcher being pushed down the blue hallway by the security guards. And of course, we see all the other patients banging up on the glass walls, banging up on the bars, just screaming, trying to grab at Susan as she's getting pushed down the hallway. And the guard's like, it'll be fine. It'll be like you have a private suite. Don't worry about it. And Steven's being the resilient little crapper that he is. He decides to wrap up his hand with a curtain and breaks out the glass window. And he jumps from 2 stories up. And he's just like, I gotta go save Susan. Then the one doctor that's doing the walk-around inspection, Dr. Hamlin, she gets to the spiral staircase in the boiler room. But the other big guy that is with her, she's like, Dr. Hamlin, I gotta say, we gotta stop this inspection now. I am not going into the deeper depths of the basement of this boiler room just for your inspection. And of course, then we see them all leaving in a car, and Stevens is behind a bush. He sees them leaving in the car as well, and he's like, God damn it, I missed my spot. And then we see Vera and another lady having a mud bath together, and Slick walks in, he's like, hey, what are you guys doing in here? If Fletcher catches you, you guys are gonna be in some serious trouble. And guess what? I'm the mud inspector. Oh, look at that. You got some white drugs over there, huh? Let me try that. You holding out on me, huh? Oh, wow, that's real stuff. And he's like, well, guess what, lady? It's time for the mud inspector to strip down and get in the mud with ya. And Vera spills the beans to Slick, being like, so I heard Fletcher talking to her big goon, and she's telling the big goon to kill you because, you're snooping around too much and you're causing too much trouble. And then we cut to Tony's Tacos, where we see Stevens and Hamlin, or Sydney, the doctor that was doing the inspection, sitting with Monroe. And apparently Monroe's helping keep her on the board. But apparently Monroe is also like the bad guy in the whole thing because he's trying to get Susan killed. But anyways, they're arguing with each other because apparently Stevens wasn't there for the inspection to show them all the bad stuff that's happening. But the whole time Monroe's there the whole time too. So it's never going to work out anyways. So it's 2 against 1, but the one guy has more power than the others, I guess. That's confusing. And Stevens is getting up. He's like, you know what? I'm going to get Susan out of there and I'm going to get your evidence. And Monroe's like, is this the kind of guy you want on the case? I want him off this case right now. I don't want him causing any trouble. Get him off this case. We see Susan's now in a blue padded room, just hiding in the corner, knees tucked into her chest, just, getting ready to have a panic attack probably. And then Stevens knows that she's locked up in this room, so he goes to the area where she is and starts flicking a light switch on to get the security guard's attention, and then he knocks him out and gets Susan out of the room. So Stevens frees her, and he tells her, he's like, I got to go do one more thing, okay? Just don't leave this room just yet. So then he goes to another office area to go look for some paperwork, I'm assuming. But of course, attached to that room is, I'm assuming it's Fletcher's off, because attached to that room is like a jacuzzi area where Fletcher's like, hey, you want to do some drugs and get in the jacuzzi with me? To one of the random ladies that she found earlier huffing glue in the walk-in closet looking area. So Steven gave her some white clothes to wear, and then we cut to Susan putting that stuff on. It's actually a nurse's outfit with the whole hat and the whole everything. But then there's also this linen room. I think I said linen room. But then there's this guy screaming inside, banging on the door, being like, hey, help, let me out. And it's of course the security guard that Stevens beat the crap out on the way into the building. And Stevens has us quickly hide into a closet area because we hear Fletcher being like, hey, I'm just going to go back to my office and go get some more drugs. He bursts open the door and looks around and be like, shit, somebody's been in here. Of course, Susan's walking through the hospital with her nurse outfit on, and then one of the ladies comes in and be like, hey, you must be new here. She's like, no, I work days. I just got transferred tonight. She's like, oh, well, I've been off for a couple weeks actually, so why would you get transferred tonight? So days were the best. And then one of the other patients runs up to Susan being like, hey, curtain time, it's curtain time. And then the other nurse is like, hey, Cindy, you need to get back to your room. It's like, no, Susan's gonna help me with my eye. She needs to go get changed though. She's wearing the wrong costume though. And of course, another commotion happens in the background. We have another guy fighting another patient who's yelling for the syringe and asking for the nurse, Susan, to give him the syringe, but she's not doing it, not listening. And then we see her waiting for the elevator to open. And of course, on the other side of the elevator door is Fletcher. And we have Fletcher dragging Susan into one of the blue medical lab areas. And she's like, I want to rip your damn skull off. But guess what? Instead of doing that, I'm just going to make you mentally insane with some potions, serums, whatever crap. I don't know why I called it potion. I don't know. Halloween was just a couple days ago. Out of nowhere, Slick comes in behind Fletcher and starts choking her out with that red scarf again that he used on Susan's mom, and because he's pissed off because he heard that Fletcher's planning to have him murder, of course, so he wants to beat her to the punch. But now that Susan's seeing Fletcher being choked out like her mom was choked out, she's starting to remember things that happened and what all happened with the whole situation, why she's in the mental hospital now. So then she tries to fight out Slick, but he just pushes her off to the side like she's no big deal. And then Dr. Monroe walks in with a gun and points at Slick. He's like, oh, what a bitch. Wait, you want your money back now or something? Like, what's going on here? And of course, Slick de-arms Monroe and starts fighting him, tossing him around the medical lab. And then Fletcher gets up with a syringe and points it at Susan, being like, you struggle or make a sound right now, and I'm putting this right in your neck. Come with me now. And then we see Fletcher taking Susan down to another lower level of the lab, and Miles is in that office area, and Fletcher throws Susan right at Miles, being like, well, it's over, Miles. Nobody's ever going to know anything about all our subjects that we worked on. It's completely over now. We then see Fletcher taking all the files out of the filing cabinet, throwing them down on the floor, and getting ready to set them on fire, as now Miles is now going around to all the blue cells and unlocking all the doors to let all the patients out, to cause havoc, I guess, on the hospital, maybe? Then we see Stevens getting ready to go in the elevator down to the lab to try and rescue Susan. And of course, Chin is on the other side of the elevator, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to really enjoy this. I'm going to rework your face a little bit. And Stevens like, you got to relax a little bit. You got to have some coffee. And he starts hitting him with a board, but the board just breaks on Chin's leg, and he just laughs it off, like, oh, okay, this is gonna be fun. Then I don't know where Steven just grabs a board and hits Chin like the back of the neck, and he falls into some boxes, and next thing you know, he's out for the count, apparently, because Stevens then gets in the elevator and takes off. And of course, Susan's just standing on the other side of this fire of the paper going up in flames and not moving or doing anything, and then Stevens walks by the room, and Susan's like, hey, I'm in here, come rescue me, please. Luckily enough, there was just a fire extinguisher sitting right beside the fire the whole damn time. We see Miles trying to get one of the patients out of the cell. He's like, come on, nobody's gonna do any more experiments on you. It's gonna be fine, everything's gonna be okay. And then we see Fletcher grabbing a broken shard of glass that we saw the intro font on, and he comes up behind Miles, and Miles just turns around and looks at her, and then we just see the shadow of her slicing Miles' throat open. And of course, he's grabbing it as blood's gushing all over the place, and the patient that he was talking to inside the cell is now screaming her face off. And then we see all the patients slowly coming out of their cells and going towards Fletcher, and she's just pushing them off like they're nothing. But then they start, surrounding her and, grabbing at her. And then as Fletcher's getting ready to leave the gated area, the gate shuts on her, and of course she's freaking out because she's telling everyone to get away. But then they start attacking her and pushing her up against the fence or the cage area, and then another patient from the other side of the cage grabs her needle that she had and injects her with her own, medical crap. Then we see Slick trying to chase after Susan, and she's using a ladder to get up. And then of course Steven comes into there, and he hears Slick groaning because he just got sacked and kicked in the face. So then Stevens tries to take after him. Of course, Slick, punches him, knocks him to the ground a little bit, and then Slick goes up that same ladder that Susan went up, and then of course Steven falls too. And they're just going deeper and deeper into this boiler room area that apparently never ends. Then as Slick and Steven start fighting in this boiler room area, for a reason Slick starts singing 3 Blind Mice as he's trying to fight, and then we see one of the patients grabbing a fire axe out of the the safety container box. The box is already broken, of course, but then she starts coming out of the shadow towards them. She's Slick it on top of Stevens, and he's trying to stab him with a knife, but then that patient with the fire axe just literally digs the whole back of the axe into Slick's back. And he's like, oh shit, what happened? And of course there's no getting up from that because he's dead. And then we just cut to Susan, who's running through the grass part out of the hellhole area and hiding up against the fence, and pretty much dropping to the ground and having a mental breakdown at this point. And Susan hears the door open, and it's Dr. Stevens coming out top area. Instead of using the stairs down, he jumps from roof to roof to roof to get down to her, and then Susan gets scared because then she feels someone touching her neck, and she turns around and it's Fletcher, but Fletcher's not the same Fletcher that we've been dealing with this whole entire time, because she's been, she was hit with the needle, and now she's a mental patient as well. Out of nowhere, we just see all these doctors running out of the mental hospital and running towards all the different patients, and 2 of them grab Dr. Fletcher and start walking her away because they're kind of confused because she's not saying anything. None of these patients are saying anything. They're just kind of looking off into space. And then Stevens and Susan just walk off into the darkness together, and that's the end of the movie. The outro credits start to roll, and this movie was interesting. It wasn't horrible by any means. The kills could have been better because there's not really much for killing actually in this movie at all, to be honest with you. You know, Slick gets the axe in his back and you don't really see it, and Miles gets his throat cut, but you don't really see that either. And the mom gets strangled at the beginning of the movie. But yeah, it wasn't too bad of a movie. It's interesting. I mean, if you're someone who likes an 80s movie with lots of boobs, this is definitely a high mark movie for you because you see lots and lots of boobs in this movie. But for me, on the Rotten scale out of 10, I'm going to give it a solid 5. I like the concept of the movie. I think it could have been done a little bit better. The acting's not that great by any means, but the Slick character's kind of sleazy and fun at the same time. So yeah, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. This brings us to our movie that we're going to be watching next week. This time we're going to watch a movie from 1996. It's a comedy sport movie. I know it's a total switch up from what we've been doing lately, but I haven't watched this movie before, and I really want to watch it because of the cast members that are in it. This movie has Dan Aykroyd, as Damon Wayans, and Daniel Stern. We're going to watch Celtic Pride because I've never actually watched it before, and I really want to watch it. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. It's on Disney Plus, so if you guys want to watch it on there, definitely go check it out before the podcast drops next week. And as always, make sure to check out the outro band, Toronto-based band Blood Opera. All the links are down below. Check them out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, and the main thing probably being the Spotify and the YouTube channel. Most likely, those are probably the two main things to be checking out. So definitely go give them a listen. Go share their music. Go share all their albums and everything else. And as always, check out all my links down below. At Typhonstein. You can find me on all social media accounts. We're on X, we're on Threads, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and of course that more important thing, we're on YouTube. So definitely go check out the YouTube channel. We got the weekly game video that drop every single Wednesday, so definitely go check that out. We have very short videos over there as well, and we also do live streams, so definitely go turn on the bell notifications when you subscribe to the channel, and also subscribe to the Twitch channel as well, because I've been streaming over there as well. So go check out those two channels, because that's a lot of extra content.
The YouTube channel is full of extra content, so definitely go check it out. And I'll talk to you guys all later. Peace.